A warm welcome, dear viewers, to our series, Natural Medicine. Today, I have my guest here again, which is Dr. Rüdiger Dahlke. A warm welcome, dear Rüdiger. Thank you for coming. Thank you. I want to talk about a topic today which is a bit uncomfortable, but I think is extremely important, that the viewers, the mothers and children at home, will receive more knowledge about the consequences of taking, for example, the contraceptive pill too early. I know many children who go to the doctor at 12 years old because of acne and get a prescription for the contraceptive pill because this state of hormones will improve the acne. But we don't hear much about the consequences of taking the contraceptive pill too early, and because you are so well known, it's important to me that this episode will go viral to get a clearer idea of what the consequences are of early hormonal contraception. Well, I'm not a gynecologist and therefore no expert for hormonal contraception through the pill, but I have, together with Volker Kahn, he's a gynecological professor and was the chief of medicine in Straubing, written a book, Women's Medical Science, and that was one of the topics we thought about, wrote about and so on. When treating acne, it's better to look at the digestion. It would be more useful to think about changing the diet. If the digestive tract is healthy, the rest of the body will be healthy. And the famous phrase by Hippocrates, all disease begins in the gut, which was spread here by F.X. Mayer. It really is. We can see it more nowadays. The academic medicine just found, after too long, the connection with our gut through Julia Enders, who wrote the book Gut. That's how it started, and this is what we have to follow instead of giving hormones. That's how it is in practice. It is done quite often. And the fact is, at least there is the assumption that with artificial hormones, you have to bear in mind the contraceptive pill creates a hormonal situation. There are different pills now, but it used to be the hormonal situation of a fake pregnancy, and if the organism feels it's pregnant, it will cause stopping the growth of the uterus. That's what many gynecologists have worried about. And of course, that would not be sensible. That was a gist. That means by taking the contraceptive pill, the uterus stops growing. There are the strongest assumptions in that direction, which also makes sense logically. If a girl is already pregnant, obviously the uterus must be fully grown and doesn't have to keep growing. That's a signal coming from the body. I heard this suspicion quite often, and that would be something to think about. Maybe the girl wants to have children later on. So then it would be good to give the uterus time to fully grow. Anyway, with my point of view, my attitude, I would refrain from hormonal contraception if it's early and also later on. But instead, looking at the holistic and psychological aspects in general. I'm not a big fan of hormonal contraception, and we have to say today, with the way the youths live now, which from my point of view is quite, how can I say, easy, cool. They end up in bed quickly, don't they? They make love soon, yes. I would go back to the old-fashioned condom, because this also covers the whole subject of papillomavirus and contagion and so on. There are many possibilities today, all sorted as well. And that would be something that could be learned and taught. It's not even dramatic. Condoms also became better with time, but they were already fine in the time when I needed to use them. For us, it really was a blessing, having access to condoms somehow, and not making a baby every time. Another thing we have to mention, like I said with depression, the side effects. A successful suicide has to be considered too, before speaking against pharmaceuticals. The same here. If the contraception fails and a 13-year-old gets pregnant, this often is quite a disaster. So that would have to be prevented, and surely prevented. And of course, the old methods of the Catholic Church to increase the population, like temperature observation and measurement. Knaus Ogino, that's not enough. But this could be combined with a cervical mucus observation and so on. The mucus has different consistencies. When it's stretchy, it means something completely different compared to when it's not. So, if a girl observes her body very well, there are alternatives. I would also keep in mind that it means using the coil, a foreign body, is inserted into the uterus, and there is no conception, at least for most part, because of this foreign body. Sometimes they even use hormonal coils and so on, at least in the past, but I think still today. I see it when a woman's fasting. If she's having a coil and fasting for 4 weeks, it can happen that in the 4th week, the body gives birth to it, so to speak. It's pushing it out because it recognizes the foreign body and doesn't want it. In this regard, my opinion is the easiest and also more sustainable method is the old-fashioned way with condoms. And that would also be advantageous for boys, who are usually not very competent due to lack of teaching, to be fair, who taught them to have love celebrations. It used to be done in the ancient world. Aphrodite, Venus priestesses did it. In my island of Cyprus, where Aphrodite came to land, there's the famous rock. There used to be a huge temple where the Venus Aphrodite priestesses taught the young Greeks to love, the art of love. We are lacking this, obviously. We slipped into terrible areas, in my opinion. It's a mixture of incompetence and misuse. Terrible. It used to be on a good standard. Well, the boys don't know what to do. They're overexcited. The girls of the same age are usually more mature. The boys are unable to cope. So the condom can even be of help because it can also prevent over-arousal. And so on. Circulation is obstructed a bit. It's certain safety, so that would be my advice. But I'm also old and old-fashioned. Today, it has to be easy, and I understand it. In case they don't manage, even though I don't know what's not to manage with condoms, to be honest. We can go back to this point, but one more thing. There was a doctor from Germany here once, a hormone specialist, and she also said, straight into the camera, if you give the contraceptive pill to children, the uterus stops growing. It's proven, and the scientific literature agrees in this regard. A consequence can be infertility. That means the wish to have children can't be fulfilled. Infertility. And I just find it horrifying when I hear this. If it's your personal decision, that's fine, but if you don't know, and how can a 12-year-old decide if she wants to have children or not later on? That's not realistic. That is important to know. And especially not because of acne, which can be treated much better and more sustainably in other ways. But this is what's so horrifying, because they don't know what they're doing. But finding the right contraceptive method is also difficult. Of course, we can use the old-fashioned way with this contraceptive cover, or French letter, as some say. Condom, sorry. French letter's colloquial. I have heard French letter before. Oh, really? Okay, well... On the one hand, if you have a daughter, the question is, should she be relying on the man? Or do you want to see what she can do too, to avoid conception, in the worst case? Well, I would never rely on the man. They're boys, blokes. How can you rely on them? You should start asking them if they wash themselves. That would be the easiest prevention of the papilloma disaster and cervical cancer. They should really ask, did you wash yourself today? And of course he will say, a Swiss bloke or an Austrian or German, I shower every morning, but just from the top is not enough. She has to ask the thing you've been practicing for so long, have you done that with soap today? Well, if she doesn't see it for herself, so pulling back and washing it with soap. Yes, good. And then it's safe. Then the smegma's gone. And papillomaviruses are only active in smegma. So that would be the easiest prevention of papillomavirus. And a girl can't rely on the man here, because men weren't never told this. No, and if the blood isn't up here anymore, but down there's not much thinking going on. Apparently so. At least it was like that with us. I think it still is, even though they're not writing love poems anymore, and it's just a different mood. But still, in my opinion, this would be important. And it's also important that they have fun and enjoy and are able to have love celebrations. And if they can only have that when they feel it's safe, A condom could move or even tear. It's rare, but still. Then there is also the morning after pill. Honestly, it's been here for a while. We had Microlot. I'm not sure anymore how many. It's a low dosage pill, only Gestagen. If you take a certain amount, you would have a withdrawal bleeding. So there are still possibilities for an emergency. But really, glittering love celebrations that end up in big orgasms, it's an unbelievable chance to experience the thrill of ecstasy. Many adults are lacking this. I can see that. We do courses of wine fasting at Tamanga. Why wine? Well, first of all, wine belongs to the cultural goods and is tasty. And of course, you could say if, for example, you'll drink a quarter of a litre of biological wine before one of the sessions, in connected breath, you can also feel ecstasy and a positive intoxication. Many people don't know what that is. The simplest form would be through sensuality, eroticism and love to reach those states. And I would really recommend this to young people, to dance until they feel the ecstasy. If it was up to me, even exercise, but they don't really like to do that these days. But the mix of movement and music combined with sensuality and eroticism, that really is something wonderful. And we should emphasize this positivity. Not telling them to be at home by midnight, this is nonsense. Children out of wedlock are not just made past midnight, but rather on the back seat of a car if they don't have a nice place to go. I would keep it positive. I also always tried in sex education talks to tell the youths, enjoy it, make it a beautiful experience, and get lost in the moment. And if, for that, they need to have the safety, then there is also, I don't know if this is still there today, pessary. There is spermicide cream to apply on the outside. There are suppositories, Patentex Oval, and so on. Well, this is chemical-based. That's also not for everyone. Sometimes it can leave a burning sensation. I know of copper chains, but copper is not really a substance to be put in an open wound, is it? An open wound? Well, most of the time it's not an open wound, but of course copper is used in viticulture to prevent vermin. So for copper, we can say it's something that prevents life, the nidation. And that's the point of contraception. But there is not a patent remedy yet. The pill for men is something that was given up. Interfering in the male hormone cycle is something that the male researchers and scientists don't really want to do. I'm not sure if that's the reason, but I think so. We also do things to women that we would never do to men. Taking off the breasts and taking out the ovaries, like with Angelina Jolie. You'd never do this to a man, preventatively taking off the testicles. This is something no urologist would do. Never heard of that. Side effects for women. For girls, the medicine treats this in an irresponsible way, in my opinion. You can see it easily because they're never mentioned. On the drug packages, it just says adults 3 times a day, children half the dosage. So you could ask, what is an adult? I've been asking this for 30 years. The answer is, of course, it's a man, 80 kilograms, 5'9" tall. So most of the girls and women get an overdosage. It's just the norm. And if you talk about it, you'll get the answer. Nobody else complained about this yet. Or anyway, we have to get rid of the stuff. They're just women. That is the opinion. This whole story about gendering, they worry about the national anthem, if we should sing about great sons or great daughters. I'd suggest let's sing great daughters for the next 500 years. Then it'll be balanced. We had this huge problem in Austria. Well, ridiculous, but what's written on the drug packages? This is something that really affects women's health. Nobody cares here. And of course, that's why, for hormonal contraception, it's at the expense of girls. But that, of course, is not fair. On the other hand, we really have to give them the opportunity to have wonderful love celebrations. Like we had them too, because this really is an important base for life. That's why they should learn about it in a way to feel safe. and that they know if they are using condoms that there is the morning after pill, where you just have to take a certain amount and have a withdrawal bleeding. The morning after pill, I'm not sure if you get it over the counter. Yes, at a pharmacy. Is it over the counter or does it need to be prescribed? That's another thing. I just know from a case in Germany, the girl just went into a German pharmacy and she got it over the counter. So that would be an opportunity that the youth need to know about. As I said, I'm not a gynecologist, but when we wrote the book about women's medical science, it's a paperback, a thick one, we were up to date. So this is something that girls will have to get more information about. I think good information is also the base for love celebrations that live up to the subject. Do you know anything about contraception with a gold ring? Instead of copper, they use gold, which should be less harmful for the girl or the lady. Noble metals all prevent infections. Silver coins, gold coins, also copper. If you just use aluminium, it's not that effective. That was the idea behind sterling cutlery. These noble metals have a certain kind of effect to prevent germs. The higher they are in the electromotive series of metals, the more noble, the better they work. So aluminium coins, like they had in the German Democratic Republic, don't have that. And gold also has the ability. But of course, the foreign body is also something that plays a role, but I don't know its Pearl Index. The Pearl Index shows how safe the contraceptive method is. The contraceptive pill is, when taken regularly, very, very safe on the Pearl Index. But you will still experience someone coming to the practice. It happened to me. She said, I took the pill regularly, and now I'm pregnant. So I asked to see the pill. The Alu strip, and then I saw that there were 4 pills that she hadn't taken. The mind always plays a role too. Of course, if there is an unconscious wish to have children, in this case, that girl had the feeling that she and her boyfriend were drifting apart, and then unknowingly, she probably didn't do it on purpose, she didn't take the pill and got pregnant to bind him to her. Also, in this case, the mind plays a big role. We should have a look at both, make sure that both talk about it and agree about not making a baby. That would be important. I think most young people make love and just use a contraception method and haven't talked about it. That would be helpful, but I have to say, I was born in a different time when there was still marriage till death do us part. Today the divorce rate's at 80%, and it's not even a one-night stand anymore. It's a one-evening stand. They don't spend the night. To ask in the morning, will you make breakfast, or do you also not know how? Well, that's quite cheap. Well, cheap, it is how it is. Today in the big cities there are more singles than couples, and for the singles there is Tinder and so on, so it's in no time that they have intercourse. So it would be helpful to put more consciousness into it. So then there would be more joy in it. Now it's just Tinder. You meet and shag in no time. I mean, this can really just be physical lust. There's nothing emotional, affectionate about it. But of course, you and I, well, me being old and you being middle-aged, that we will tell the young, listen, you have to put more heart into it. They'll laugh at us, to be honest, it's like that. However, I can also see sensitive children or teens that are really looking for a relationship for life. Even with 16 and 18-year-olds, I've also seen that. Now, I'd like to go back to the cervical cancer. You said before, men who are not washed properly can spread the germs. Yes, they do. Okay, on the other hand, I keep hearing to get the vaccination against cervical cancer, and even that the men should get it too. So now I'm confused. Well, in the end, they want everyone to get it, if you're pregnant or not pregnant, because the vaccine industry is behind it. Let's be honest, in this so-called world money religion, everything is about money. And then we have the pressure in Germany, this madness by Spahn, who worries so much about measles. I mean, why does he not worry about resistant germs at hospitalism in the clinics, causing a huge number of deaths? Gerd Reuter, a German radiologist, after 30 years in radiology, he says we've had 300,000 deaths just from that. Well, I hope this is a bit overrated or even a lot, but the fact is that there is a lot of pressure behind vaccinations, and I would never consider it in our situation. Here in Central Europe, we have to differentiate. I would say, as a girl, you can double-check that a guy is washed, and then it's fine. If you only have one sexual partner, and he washes himself or you wash him, that can also be quite fun in the bathroom. As far as the feedback goes that I got, then there is no danger. If you're changing partners, but also then, especially then, with one-night stands, they should verify that they're washed. Then you're not in danger. It's like that. Without the smegma, there will not be the papillomavirus. If you verify this from the beginning, you're safe. But I have to say, recently on a gynecology seminar in Cyprus, I heard from professors and chiefs of medicine and so on. In Australia, they managed, with this vaccination, to eradicate the cervical carcinoma from high numbers down to 0. Well, probably they are not that hygienic there. If you think about Crocodile Dundee in the movie, how he thinks the bidet is a device to clean boots and puts them in. So, well, in the outback, the sexual hygiene is not on the same standard as we could have it here. And then, sure, the vaccine was obviously a blessing if they eradicated it. However, I think there is a mistake in thinking we can't just delegate everything to the pharmaceutical industry. It won't make us healthy. I can see that, and I'm really not a complete anti-vaxxer, honestly. For a girl, I would advise to get a rubella titer done before puberty, if she was in touch with it. If she was, it's fine. I'd advise to get a single vaccine, even though it is difficult to find now. So it's complicated. And the industry exerts a lot of pressure. I mean, Mr. Spahn, he's a lobbyist of the industry, used to be for many years, in the pharmaceutical industry. Now he's in the best position he could be to be a pharmaceutical lobbyist, German Minister of Health. This has nothing to do with health. Well, the CDU party is a lobbyist talent foundry anyway. If the Minister of Agriculture is celebrating the head of Nestlé because he reduces the toxic waste in his food by 10%, down to 90%, or the harmful parts, wow, isn't that fantastic? Her predecessor, also from the same party, he approved glyphosate for another 5 years. And the head car lobbyist, Mr. Wissmann, he used to be the Minister of Transport. And I could go on. That's what we need to know. It's all ruled by lobbyists. If we know that, at least we won't expect anything reasonable in regards to health. So I just would say madness by Spahn. What's happening is completely idiotic. Well, the guy is career-driven. We can see that. A lot of energy and, well, you're all allowed to work for the pharmaceutical industry, but don't pretend, as the Minister of Health, to be neutral and just care about people's health. That is not okay. Finally, it's not that easy to decide. I'm not against the idea of vaccines. And they are also trying to change the carriers, no more quicksilver, thimerosal and so on. We have to watch it closely, but just vaccinating as part of industrial politics, I wouldn't agree to that. Since I turned 16 and took responsibility about it, I've not been vaccinated. We also try to avoid it for our children, but I can't advise to not get vaccinated. You'll get in trouble for that as a doctor because the industrial power is so strong. I have to say, and so I did, if it was my child, I would not have them given a multiple vaccine. Because I know of so many sickish children caused by vaccines. And I also know children that are vital without vaccinations. Then you have to give them alternative protection, like Dr. Graf explains, a homeopathic doctor. You can give good alternative protection. It's not a one-sided story. Being against vaccinations, if we are against it, we have to take other measures. Then we need a good diet, a lot of movement outside, and maternal passive immunity. We made another good episode about vaccinations, to be or not to be. I'd like to recommend it. Unfortunately, the viewers will not like it if I have to call it a day for this episode because the time is unfortunately up. But to sum up, we can say the cervical vaccine, cervical cancer vaccine, papillomavirus vaccine. Good, makes sense. If the men really don't wash themselves and the woman doesn't check and doesn't want to check if they are washed, then it does make sense. On the other hand, if she double checks that it would not be necessary for her to be vaccinated, because then it doesn't make sense and would be nonsense. There has been a woman, I know a case that has died from this vaccination. We have to look at that too. It's not that harmless. There are countless numbers of side effects in vaccines that are covered up, I would say. The small GDR had more recognised vaccine damage than the big FRG, just because the Federal Republic of Germany has a vaccine industry. So, in this regard, we have to see there are many different interests involved. Everyone has interests, and in this world money religion, eventually there's always money behind it. I get it. Good, dear Rüdiger, thank you very much for this episode. You're welcome. Dear viewers, I hope that we could give you precious food for thought in this episode, especially that it's not ideal if our young children, girls, take the contraceptive pill too early. And if they do, they need to be informed in depth about the possible consequences if they take it too early. So thank you so much for watching. Take care and see you next time.